Mapping migration. The United States has always been a nation of immigrants. People have moved here from all over the world to escape war and poverty, to find freedom, and to build better lives. One of the busiest immigration periods was in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Millions of people came to the U.S. from places like Ireland, Italy, Germany, Russia, China, and Japan. They traveled along migration routes, established paths along which people move from one place to another. The most widely used routes led across the Atlantic Ocean to the East Coast and across the Pacific Ocean to the West Coast. Many of these immigrants sailed to the port of New York. The country built a new federal immigration station, Ellis Island, to process them. It opened in 1892. Over the next 62 years, this small island in New York Harbor became the gateway to a new life in America for more than 12 million immigrants. There were two main migration routes from Europe to New York Harbor. Immigrants in Northern and Western Europe left from port cities in places like Norway, France, and Ireland. Some sailed across the North Sea or through the English Channel before crossing the Atlantic Ocean to reach New York Harbor. Immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe traveled to port cities in places like Greece, Italy, and Portugal to board steamships. Many crossed the Mediterranean Sea to reach the Atlantic, continuing westward. It was a long and hard trip, taking a week or more to cross the Atlantic. Many immigrants traveled in steerage, a dark, crowded area near the bottom of the ship. As the ships arrived in New York Harbor, the tired immigrants saw the Statue of Liberty. To them, it was a symbol of America and freedom. Ellis Island was their first stop. Once they were processed and approved, they were allowed to enter New York City to start their new lives. Ellis Island was the main entry point in the U.S. on the East Coast at the time. In 1910, the Angel Island Immigration Station opened in San Francisco Bay, California, to process those arriving on the West Coast. More than 300,000 people arrived there in the 30 years it was open. Most came from China and Japan. Others came from India, Russia, and the Philippines. Travelers who left from China or Japan sailed directly across the Pacific Ocean to the U.S. Indians and Russians traveled hundreds of miles to board ships in the port cities of Manila, Hong Kong, Yokohama, or Vladivostok. Some from the Philippines came to the U.S. via Honolulu, Hawaii. The trans-Pacific trip took about 3 weeks. Most of these immigrants could only afford steerage. Once they arrived in San Francisco Bay, travelers might be detained at Angel Island for 2 weeks. Some were kept there for up to 2 years. If approved to come into the U.S., they were allowed to enter in San Francisco. Many Americans have ancestors who made those long and difficult journeys from all over the world. These immigrants helped shape the America that we know today.